Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to Adobe Live. I'm your host, Kieran Lewis, a freelance graphic designer based in London, and today is part 2 of brand designer Kevin Craft's stream. Kevin, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for today. Yesterday went super quick, right? Super
Yeah,
quick.
it definitely did.
Nice. And of course, a massive welcome to anyone who's tuned in. If you're tuning in via YouTube or Behance, a massive warm welcome as always. I can see in the chat, it's coming in thick and fast. We've got Wade, Katrina, Jack, Simon, and Carol. A massive welcome. And as always, I'm going to be feeding in all of your comments directly to Kevin whilst he's designing. But before we kick off, just 2 little notes to mention to you lovely people. If you missed the previous stream, you can check the replay on Behance on YouTube. Check out photographer Sasha Vinogradova as she pieces together some pre-rendered elements and Adobe stock images into Photoshop to create a fantastical piece. And secondly, don't forget to miss the Illustrator Creative Challenge with Jack Watson every weekday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, right before the stream. So tune in and create some awesome work and a new prompt every single day. And on one very final note, today's an even more special day because we have our Artist Spotlight. So for anyone who's quite new to what that is, that's a segment of Adobe Live where we just pay a bit of homage and celebrate some creatives in our community. So that'll be coming in towards the latter part of today's stream. So stay tuned for that. But for now, Kevin, my man, would you like to introduce yourself to for anyone who we missed yesterday and also what we're working on for today's stream?
Sure, why not? My name is Kevin Craft. I'm a freelance brand designer based in Dallas, Texas. I got my start working as a web designer for Bergdorf Goodman, and I also have experience as an art director for several advertising agencies here in Dallas. About 3 years ago, I decided to go off on my own and start my own freelance business because I wanted to focus more on brand identity. And I've just been loving doing that ever since. So
Nice.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. And I can see some of your work as well. We got on your screen as well, which is looking really sharp, man. I think yesterday we were kind of going through and a bit about your background and also the strategic part as well, how you designed, which was really nice. Not just the design element, it's the strategic part. So yeah, I mean, perhaps maybe just give our lovely audience a bit of an intro into what you'll be working on for today's stream.
Sure. So today we're going to be working on a rebrand for a coffee shop. Here, I'll go ahead and share my Illustrator screen. We talked about the creative brief a little bit about how it's a local coffee shop in Dallas called Oak Street.
My people, we're back. Sorry about that. Just that's the beauties of live stream. But we are now in the full flux of it. So yeah, go for it, Kevin. You're introducing for part 2 today.
Yeah. Last time we started doing this rebrand of the coffee shop Oak Street. It's based off of a local coffee shop here in Dallas. They want to appeal to their demographic, which is creatives that work from home or people that just want to go to a coffee shop and hang out with their friends. They're looking for something that was a little bit more organic and unique to their style. So yesterday we started playing around with logo sketches. This is the original logo that they had originally. We have some sketches of the package design. We played around with different elements of nature to create the marks inspired by leaves and also coffee beans. And then we also played around with different logo types to figure out which one we thought works best and felt right for the client.
Nice.
And then at the end of the day, we just played around with color schemes and some quick mock-ups of what it might look like once we get into package design, which we'll be doing today.
Sounds like a plan, man. And I know yesterday, with the comments that we had coming in from the chat, everyone was loving your designs too. And obviously we had a little polls as well, which was quite nice.
Yeah.
So for anyone today as well, especially, you might even do a few polls and to get your perspective as well. So again, a massive welcome. And of course, any questions, you know, like we said, get those in the chat and we'll put it in. And also, where are you streaming from? You know, which part of the world you're streaming from? I'm in London. Kevin, you're in Dallas, right? If I'm right saying? There we go. So opposite ends of the world pretty much. But yeah, let us know in the chat where you're streaming from, and I'll share your lovely comments into Kevin whilst he's doing some design magic.
Okay, so yesterday we left off here. I'll make this a little bit bigger. But we were kind of taking a poll to decide where we wanted to go with the design. Did we want to do a screen printed one where you can kind of see the inside of the bottle, like see that rich color of the cold brew, or if we wanted to play around with more of a label design? So maybe we can like start that poll again as I start designing.
Sure, we can
just like play around with that.
Definitely. I remember yesterday you made a really good point as well about whether, especially when it's a product where it's either transparent so you can see the actual product, or whether you felt comfortable with maybe screen print the logo. I think the font on the left was everyone's favorite, wasn't it? I think that seemed to be the one that everyone's kind of drawing towards. But I mean, again, in the chat, for anyone who's new from, you know, who missed out yesterday, what's your guys feeling? Are you feeling the one on the left, one on the right? Like obviously you can see on the right, we've got a nice little label. So you can't see fully the bottle, but the left we were saying maybe like a nice screen printed, maybe, or, you know, sort of design that could be printed on direct to the glass. But what's your vibes, guys, in the chat? Let us know. And whilst that's happening, Kevin, let's maybe just jump into that, and I'll definitely feed that into you whilst we go. But I can see we've got some questions already, Kevin, just straight for you. We've got Joshua who said, hey Kevin, I live in the Dallas area. What real shop was your inspiration for this rebrand? I personally love that coffee shop, 1418 and Oak Cliff Coffee.
Okay, I guess like the secret's gonna be out. So it's actually based off of Davie Street Coffee in I believe it's Bishop Arts area. So that's like the coffee shop that I based it off of. But yeah.
Nice. I feel like you're flying the flagship now for the local coffee shops in the area.
Hope they like it.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And again, because it fed into the inspiration. You said that you visit a lot of coffee shops in your area as well. You know, going freelance quite recently as well. I know especially a lot of the range of audience that we have. You know, it ranges from students, graduates, people in the industry for years, or even just starting out. It was quite nice hearing your story about, you know, you went freelance. Not recent, or quite recently, right? About a year. You said into it?
About 3 years ago.
3 years. There we go. It's my brain not working. 3 years ago. Nice, man. And I can see already in the chat, everyone's loving. I think option 1 on the left seems to be the winner.
Okay, great.
At the moment. So there we go.
So I thought today we can start by I'll just like show you around this file. I've added in the stuff that needs to go on the front from the manufacturer. So like these are important details that must go on the package. And then once we finish that, we can start designing the back kind of based off of the front to kind of bring in some other elements there.
Nice. I remember we were saying as well. Oh, sorry, I was just saying about the copy. We spoke about almost like it's nice to have almost like a copywriter, right? Just to make sure everything is all above board. Just nothing slips through the cracks, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's definitely great to. A lot of times when I work with companies like that, they have someone on their team that's actually specifically in charge of this type of thing. Kind of like getting all those things for you. For instance, I was working on a project in Canada where everything had to be in English and French. And they also had like, there were like very specific things that had to go in the package. So it was like, it was a little bit more intense than this is.
That's interesting. Those, I mean, I'd love to know what you guys in the chat think as well. If you have had projects in the past, or even working on now, where you have to do a lot of maybe some translations with some designs or packaging. It's I feel like you got to use a different part of your brain, isn't it? When you have to design one thing in, say, your mother tongue, and then the other in another language that you're not used to. I mean, I've done a bit of Arabic as well with some editorial design, and that's, you know, a completely different way to English. So it's quite cool having to use that part of your brain, right, to navigate how that's going to work, especially in the space as well if it's longer, lengthier characters.
Yeah, definitely. So I also have brought in some of the color schemes that we played around with yesterday, some of these elements that I would like to play around with, and also original sketches of just like rough ideas that I had.
Nice.
What I want to do here is, I think that this looks like pretty good, but I think that I would like it to be more than just like a logo and then the glass. Like I want to make it a little bit more interesting and special and unique.
Mm.
I also feel like adding those types of things will go along better with what we had talked about, which is like making it organic, friendly and approachable, and then having a sense of community.
Nice. And that's quite nice because it relates back to the brief as well, isn't it? When we spoke about yesterday, where it's those keywords, when even if you have a bit of a creative block, you can always revert back to the brief. And I don't know if you do the same thing, but whenever I get a brief, and I almost highlight the kind of key takeaway points that is going to be the real main ingredients for the deliverable, just for your brain to kind of operate and be more digestible. But yeah, those kind of keywords of community and the graphic that we've used, they're kind of stranding quite nicely together.
So probably what I'm going to start with is I'm going to do something similar. Oh, and then also I put in like this area where we're allowed to work with, and then this is the exact dimensions of the design area. So I usually start being like pretty loose about it with my designs, just like seeing what I think is going to work. And then once I have a design that I like, I'll go back into the design area and kind of be more precise about it, make sure everything is like perfectly aligned to the space. And like I look out for things like, is like the type too small? Is it legible? That kind of thing.
Do you ever find as well sometimes if we got the gift of having a printer at home, just testing it out as well, just for the because on the screen it looks super nice and pixels are all, you know, sharp. When you print, you're like, oh, that letter kind of merges in a bit too close than it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot in the chat can relate. And actually, some nice questions coming, or some comments coming in, relating to that topic we discussed about the, you know, 2 languages maybe on a packaging. We've got Isabel, who said Canada has 2 official languages, so designing in both French and English is very common for me. So there we go. Got Izzy juggling sort of 2 languages as we get in the design world, which is yeah, it's still part of your brain to operate in, but awesome stuff.
So I'll start this process kind of similar to the process where we were doing our logo marks yesterday, where I'm kind of just like taking these sketches and playing around with ideas that I've already had and seeing what works. Luckily, I already have these design elements. We have some leaves here, and then also like this could be like a drop of coffee, and then this is a coffee bean that we can play around with.
Nice.
And what I'd like to do is I'd like to add some kind of pattern to this, because I think it would be really interesting to kind of like have the top half of this just be like clean at the logo, and then the bottom half have more of this like foliage down here. So I'm just gonna play around with some of these elements that I have and see what I can come up with.
Sounds like a plan, man. And again, anyone, any thoughts you may have, even of the graphics that you've seen on that far left, if you've got any ideas of how we can make it work, you know, definitely, I'm sure Kevin would love to kind of hear your thoughts and ideas on how we can make it work. So definitely throw those in. And even just my opinion, what you're doing now, I could even see that working with, you know, some of the aprons or some of the staff in the coffee shop if they have to wear it, you know, branded. You can almost imagine like the bottom half of it kind of working quite nicely, because it's quite a clean, kind of solid graphic as well. There's not much, it's not very hand drawn, it's very sharp. That would work quite nice on some materials and fabrics, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and like that's something you can also think about for like maybe like just this week I worked on a client that needed a tissue paper design for this box that I had already designed for them. So that's like something that you can think about when you're doing that. I often like to make patterns that have something to do with elements of the logo that kind of like strengthen that. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, is just like I'm using these leaves, kind of coming up with like this pattern that's a little bit almost like these leaves were like dropped on the glass. I
imagine as well, if it's almost like when you have that client where budget is is not a problem, and you can almost have a bit of fun with the type of graphics. So what I mean is like even laser cut, or even doing. There's a lot of, I mean, usually the budget kind of brings us back down to planet Earth, right? But it's when you have the option to have a bit of fun with it. I mean, how's just whilst you're doing that, I'm just quite curious. So when you have, say, amends from clients or feedback, have you got like a process of how you kind of take that on, and do you walk them through it? Do you have a Zoom call, meet in person? Do you have a sort of process that you do in terms of sort of digesting that feedback and then action?
Oh, like if they have a revision?
Yeah, because I know that's usually a lot of that tends to be a lot of, again, with the chat that we have, it's a lot of it's a range of different people, sometimes students, grads who are just starting out, and they're quite curious to know, how do you kind of take on board feedback and not basically take it too close to heart, but in a way where you guys want to get it done in the best way possible. Have you got any tips or any advice that you can really share with our audience?
Yeah, usually if someone gives me a revision, I just quit, and that's that. Just kidding.
I mean, you had a serious face there. I was like, I couldn't tell if you were being. I was like, dude, that's savage.
No. So typically, we'll have a Zoom call like this, and we'll talk about it. Sometimes they want to just do it through email, but I just like. I know that that's something that's like it's really hard, especially since like. You've worked really hard on your design, and like it always feels bad when like you spend a lot of time on something and like put a lot of passion into it, and then like someone doesn't like it. But I found that just like keeping an open mind to the work that we do is very subjective. Not everyone is going to like everything that you do, so just like just do your best. I've also found to kind of like help with revisions, if you have a reason for all of your designs, you get a lot less than if you just like make something and then you're like, it looks good, right? So like that's how I've gone about doing things.
That's a great point. And again, it'd be great to know if any, you guys in the chat have any experiences of how you kind of dealt with feedback or amends, or and it is a tricky one, isn't it? I feel like, I mean, within my own practice as well, I always feel like it's something that comes with time, especially if you are a freelance or going into freelance, because you might have those, of course, amazing jobs, and then now and again, those kind of curveballs, and it's the tough ones that really kind of make, I won't say make or break, that's a bit harsh, but kind of makes, the designer kind of think in a different way of how they can kind of overcome that challenge. I think you made a good point about, I think you're talking about, amends coming via email. I mean, I always tend to think I would much rather a quick Zoom, especially if they're from abroad, say, a Zoom call, just like a 10-minute Zoom chat, rather than a back and forth email chain. Things get lost in translation. No one really wants that. But yeah, you guys let us know in the chat, how do you kind of do that? Or have you got any experience as well? Obviously, don't maybe name the brand or client, because that'll be horrible. But you can share it. Client A and client B. Just let us know your thoughts. It'd be great to know.
Yeah, I found if you are just like don't lose your cool, be very professional about it. They kind of mirror that, and like they kind of see where you're coming from, and it usually works out in the end, like for me at least. Like I feel like as long as you don't just like have an ego trip about it, it's usually it usually works out.
Nice. I can see as well, we've got a lot of action in the chat. By the way, I'm not ignoring you guys, I'm just making sure Kevin has the flow, and then I'm strategically kind of dropping these little gems into Kevin, so definitely please keep them coming if it's on YouTube or Behance. We've got, and hopefully I think you might know this person, Kevin. You said, yo, Kevin, so great to see you here, brother. Ida from E49.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. So, hello, welcome. And also, we have got a question from, I'm scrolling down, from Isabel. I hope, I'm not sure this is correct saying, but it's one for both of us, actually. And she said, what's the last thing you learned? I mean, is that in terms of the feedback or amends? Let us know exactly what you mean, but definitely feed that in as a question whilst Kevin's designing some magic.
So I want to show everyone a pro tip that I did learn this year. So if you're messing around with Illustrator and you want to make some patterns very quickly, something that you can do is you can select what other shape that you want to repeat, and then hold Option and drag it, but make sure that it's like, you see that pink line, so it's not going like diagonal, it's in a straight line. So you can drag it like so, and then if you press Command D, it'll make as many as you want. So like it's a great way to start building patterns.
Nice.
So that's what I'm going to do for this one. The other one I did more of like an eclectic pattern of leaves, and for this one I'm going to play around with one that's a little bit more contained.
Nice, and it's cool as well. I mean, like you're obviously you're in Illustrator today, so obviously that's a vector-based program. In terms of you within your own practice and the type of work that you do, is there a particular program that you use more often, or even better, have you got a particular favorite program that you like to, it's kind of operating that you use quite often?
I definitely use Illustrator the most. And then I would say like after that, I use Photoshop. The Illustrator is like where everything starts, and it's
Nice.
kind of like where everything ends too. Like whenever I'm exporting logos, like it's also in Illustrator. So
I feel like a really deep meaning of life sort of moment that I start and I end with Illustrator. I like be one with the Illustrator. I love that. No, it is a fun program to use, especially, I mean, I use a sort of Wacom tablet. So for me, it's just like, drawing graphics and tracing, and it's fun. I mean, I've got a soft spot for InDesign. That's definitely my kind of baby for editorial design. But again, what's your favorite in the chat, guys? What are you, even if you're quite new to Adobe Live or Adobe Creative Cloud, I should say, have you got a particular program that you've used a lot, or one that you find a bit tricky, like to know more about? Let us know in the chat. And going back to Izzy's question about what have we learned, and I had a feeling it could be this, but I wasn't too sure, so I went to iron it out. And it's anything in general, she said. What have we learned? Anything in general. I imagine in the space of the creative industry, but anything else? Have you learned how to make nice coffee? I don't know. I don't know. What have you learned?
I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot of things, but
what's the first one that comes to mind? Yeah.
I feel like since becoming a freelancer, one thing that I've learned how to do is just like basically like learning how to manage my own business. That was something that I never had to do when I was like working like a salary job. I was just kind of like there's someone else to manage that for me. And so like doing invoices and coming up with projections and even like paying quarterly taxes, like these are all like kind of complicated things that I had to learn how to do and just like make it a part of my flow so I could also like continue designing.
That's a very good point. No, I like that. That's a nice way of nice thing to learn. I mean, in myself, what have I learned? I feel like I should keep it in the creative space, but I feel like it's going to be something even more deeper than that. What have I learned? Do you know what? I think actually just taking a bit of a breather. And what I mean by that is almost like it's obviously you mentioned you've been freelancing for 3 years. I mean, I'm kind of to 2-year mark. So we're kind of in that same space roughly. But I don't know if you find the same thing, Kevin, but it's quite easy, especially if you work from home and you've got your own sort of studio office. It's quite easy to almost tunnel vision, but just become a little bit of a hermit crab. And I think I'm trying to learn to sometimes step away from the screen a bit, get some inspiration outside of just the online world, whether that's kind of going to galleries, exhibitions, shows. So I'm trying to learn to be a bit better in that. I think taking a step away and take a bit of a breather for mental well-being side of things as well. So yeah, hopefully it answers your questions, Izzy, of what we're trying to learn. I mean, what have you learned as well? It'd be great to know. What have you guys learned recently in the space of design, or if you learned to ride a bike, let us know. We're curious to know, what have you learned recently? Sharing is caring. We've got a question here from Fergie. I love these kind of questions actually. So she said, question for Kevin, what would be your sky's the limit in abbreviations dream project to work on? Sky's the limit. There we
wow,
go.
sky's the limit.
I mean, it's literally, there is nothing else beyond that point of no return.
Oh,
Forward bit.
that is like the question though. Like, I'm trying to think. The
You
thing
can let
is,
it marinate for a bit if you need more time, because that is quite a boom. What is it?
I could say it's this. Like
Nice.
I love working on clients that are a little bit smaller, and they kind of have like they haven't like established themselves yet because it's kind of like blank canvas. And it's easy for me to work with them through my workshops and kind of like talk through what their needs are. But I have like I feel like I've worked on a lot of really cool stuff as well. So now it's like I feel like 3 years ago, like it would be a different answer than what it is now.
Nice.
Like 3 years ago, it probably would have been like a really big name client. And then now it's more like I like like smaller things, you know.
But like before it was cool kind of thing. I like that. I mean, your portfolio is amazing, dude. Like we obviously had a bit of a look yesterday as well, and as we're kind of going to stream more, and towards the end as well, we'll do like a nice little catch up and how we can follow up. But I mean, when I first knew that I'll be hosting you and checked out your work, I was definitely in awe with the different type of clients that you work with, and also as well, which would be quite a nice way to lead into it, is because you do a lot of obviously courses as well, right, to sort of help and sort of nurture creatives and tutorials that you give. Perhaps maybe talk about that a little bit whilst you're designing, for anyone who's quite new, or even for those who maybe didn't join yesterday, to know what you do in terms of that learning elements and the courses that you provide.
Yeah, so I really only have one. I did it for a company called Domestica, and it is a course on the strategy behind brand identity design. So it's all the workshops that I do with my own clients to kind of figure out what their overall design goals are, who their target audience is. Like there are questions in there that kind of like help you figure out how to talk to a client about that. And also putting it together in a package for a presentation, because I found that that has really helped me with my clients. And it kind of like, it lets them know that I understand where they're coming from and what they're trying to accomplish. So like if anyone's interested in learning more about brand identity, I have that on my Behance. It's the first project that's on there.
Nice. I know we'll drop some links in there from our moderators as well of your heart, so we can definitely check that out. Of course, stay in and watch our stream, and obviously afterwards, by all means, definitely indulging Kevin's Domestica courses. But that's cool, dude, that you work on that sort of parallel to your freelance as well, and that's quite nice. You kind of giving back and sharing that experience and knowledge that you've kind of gained over the years in industry as well. That's very, very cool. And we've got some really lovely comments actually in terms of what people have learned as well. We've got K.E. Davis, who said they've learned to pay attention to patience, colors, fonts, and distracting versus attracting. So that's interesting. Some of the sort of deeper elements of it rather than just the fact of does it look good. So that's a really nice way of seeing it. Yeah, definitely kind of share those in as we kind of go along. And we've got actually some more questions coming in, but I'll definitely kind of strategically throw them in so that you have time to do it. But can I give you one more question just to kind of keep our guests super keen?
Yeah.
We've got Josie, who said, so there's two questions here. How do you handle client requests for revisions, which I feel like we may have touched on a little bit, but we can touch on that again for Josie, perhaps. Yeah, let's do that one first, and then I'll feed in the second question, actually. So yeah, how do you kind of deal with requests of revisions, which I think we might have touched on briefly?
So like revision requests?
So yeah, so I imagine like amends, or if a client comes back and says, I want this, because sometimes, excuse me, I know with certain freelance, you may maybe state it in the agreement at the very beginning, in terms of how many stage of revisions there are with the amends. So do you have a kind of methodology of how you would do that, or is it more you kind of iron it out on a call and try and figure it out that way? Have you got a kind of method to the madness, as it were?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's something that I feel like is on everyone's mind as a designer, is like how to manage that, because we've
Mm.
all been in a position where you've had like way too many revisions, and you're like, oh, I should have ironed this out at the beginning.
Oh
But
yes.
I feel like the best way to do it, or like the way that I've been doing it, is I make sure it's very clear in the proposal how many revisions there are, and I do it by round. So like one round, you can edit whatever you want, but like that has to be in one email, and like you can't like add on things, or else that's another revision round. So I make that very clear in my proposal. I also have a page on my website about revisions, just so that I could like throw them the link. They could see like how they work,
Nice.
because I found that clients also have questions about that too. Like they're kind of
Mm.
like, I don't know, like what counts as a revision, what doesn't. So
That's a really good point. I think as well, it sometimes can be a learning curve for the client just as much as the designer as well, in a sense where, especially if they're just kind of starting out as a business and they want a designer and they're not too sure, they don't want to sort of take liberties as it were, but also they obviously they want to get what the best deliverable possible, but they kind of want to know what is capable and what's not. And our job as designers is sometimes to kind of walk them through, because you might have that client who just, they know what they want, they see it, it's bish bash bosh, all those clients that you kind of have to, a bit more TLC as it were, to really kind of get that. But like, I almost feel that's a different part of your brain that you operate into, and that comes with time, right? The more you get to know other clients and new clients, how they operate, and also get to know yourself as well in terms of what you can deliver, how quickly you can operate, and vice versa. That was a great question, Josie. Thank you very much. I'll feed in the second one, but in the meantime, what are we just, so again, because right now I can see a nice little strong collection of different graphics here going on. Do you want to talk us through what we've got from the left to the right there? Because it's looking good.
yeah, definitely. So this one, like while we were talking about questions, I was just playing around with these different leaf formations, and they're all different sizes, and they're kind of coming together to talk through that word that we had talked about with community. So that was like what I was kind of going through for here.
Mm.
And then this one is a similar idea where they're all kind of like facing different directions, and they're kind of stacking to build this pattern below. And I'm kind of liking the way that it's making these shapes in the negative space as well, where it has like almost like the star-like form, or like these two come together and they form almost like a flower. So there are different things that you can see in it, while it's still showing that community aspect of it. And then this one, I started using elements of the leaves, and also like these coffee drops, as kind of just like a floral motif for this bottle. And then here I've just been playing around with the coffee beans.
Nice.
So,
and we're going to do maybe your favorite thing, Kevin, today. We're going to do a little poll. I know you love your polls. We've got a soft spot for the polls. So maybe we could do like a little nice little poll for you lovely people in the chat. So from left to right, 1 to 4. What are you guys vibing? What is your kind of favorite graphic so far? Have you got a favorite? I mean, I always, when I've ever asked that, it's like, are we influencing people's decisions here by saying what our favorite is? But
yeah.
don't take that into consideration. What do you guys like? But yeah, Kevin, what's your vibe? What are you liking out of the 1 to 4 options there?
I think I'm in this territory over here.
Okay. I love how you didn't say the number. I'm getting a warm vibe from the left, but I won't say which. That's very diplomatic. Yeah, I'm more in the middle region, I think. Yeah, I mean, I feel like one and 2 looks good. I mean, even with number 2, and I mean, my brain started to think about, because of the way the pattern kind of breaks up, you could even, if they're coming from the top and the bottom of the bottle, obviously I know it's the way it's kind of cropped the shape, and you're looking kind of house and sit in the center of that point. I mean, that could be a bit maybe overkill, but there's a lot you can do with that graphic. But what do you guys think in the chat? What are you guys vibing for? 1 to 4. I can see them coming in super quick, actually. Ooh, it's quite an interesting. Usually when we put these polls out, it's like a clear winner, but actually, I'm seeing a few ones, a few threes, and the occasional twos, but 1 and 3 seems to be the one. But we'll let that marinate for a second, and before we find out what that is, that 2-part question to Josie, because don't worry, Josie, I haven't forgotten that second question. So she said, do you have to set some sort of boundaries from the start of a project? So again, we touched before about how far is too far, and that could be of amends, that could be even if clients want the actual working files at the end, because some clients want to take it forward, and then you know, if you worry, is that your design, they're going to, you know, edit and do it in a way that doesn't, you know, sit very well with the brand guidelines. Do you kind of set the parameters early on before you really get into it?
Usually in my proposals, there'll be a section that has the scope, and that's everything that's included in the project. I haven't had a lot of clients ask me for original files. I think that's kind of like a hot topic. Like
hot topic,
yeah, you're like either on one or the other end of it. But for me, I can see why people wouldn't want to give them. But usually with my clients, they'll usually hire me for like their brand identity or something like that. And it usually leads to other projects. So like I'm the one that's using my own working files. So like I haven't had like to deal with that much since becoming a freelancer.
Nice. That's cool. I think and actually just kind of going back to that poll. So Wade, yeah, you've asked to make a poll. Please definitely make a poll. Kevin is a soft spot for polls. I love that. So definitely let's make a poll. I mean, I can see already in the chat, it seems, I'm trying to calculate the numbers because it's coming in obviously in its thick and fast, but it's still a good range. But I feel like a poll is perhaps the most easiest and most logical way of finding a winner. So yeah, if you could do a quick poll, Wade, that would be awesome. And then I'll feed that back into Kevin as what seems to be the winner. And we've got some more questions, Kevin, as well, whilst we're doing that, which is awesome. So we've got Miranda, who said she's loving it, first of all, so looking good. Do you make your own mock-ups? I saw a lot of mocked up work on your site and your portfolio. Do you have any resources to share? Great question.
So I feel like that's like a yes and a no. So my, I usually like look for the best mockups that I can. Like I have a huge collection of them. But I'm usually never like totally happy with the ones that I get. So I usually end up modifying them in some way. I'll put in a layer that changes like the levels on it to make it a little bit more crisp, or sometimes I add a shadow to the mock-up to give it a little bit more depth. But I don't have any that I've made that I can like call my own. They're just kind of like mismatched ones that other people have made and I've applied my designs to.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I feel like there is so much resources online to kind of make it easier for designers to almost, in a way, when you are designing something and you want to show that client how it's going to be executed, having a mock-up, I don't know if you find it as well with clients, but when they see it in that context of actually how it's going to look, it just really just gets into their brain. Okay, cool, that's how it's going to look. I think a bit like you. I mean, I've got a hard drive and it's just backed up to the hills and back with a variety of different mock-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have particulars? I mean, I know obviously, you know, it'd be criminal not to mention it. Obviously, Adobe stock has, again, some great resources for mock-ups. So, you know, there's a lot of out there, Graphic Burger, Pixel Surplus, if anyone knows about those. But of course, Adobe stock will have some great mock-ups, and even Behance as well. I don't know if you ever used Behance for mock-ups too, Kevin, but there's a lot of designers that you're able to obviously give them a bit of credit as well, but you can also download some of their mock-ups, which I think is quite nice when you've actually got a designer who's made something and it doesn't feel like it's you go on Google and type in mockup, and actually you download it. It's like, hang on, this is not what I thought it was going to be. It's like a present.
Yeah,
It's like,
I mean, that has definitely happened to me before, where I get a mockup and then like you can only change one thing, and then everything else is just like one
dude,
layer.
that's painful when that happens. When
Yeah.
that's like a designer's. It happens to the best of us, right? When you download it, and I feel like I want to geek out now, but you get those like memes online where I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like you thought it was a PNG, you download it, and it's actually like a solid. Back
Yeah.
It's like, this wasn't a PNG. You lied to us. But
And I don't get what the point of that is either. Like like who's winning?
yeah, exactly. I think they're just trying to troll us, dude. I don't know if it's just like a clickbait and see who's going to do it. But so let's see on this poll actually. What is everyone vibing to? Have we got a winner, Wade? So far. Winner, chicken dinner. But yeah, so I can see right now you're you working a bit on the O.
Yeah, I'm just like playing around while this this poll goes through. One thing that I did want to talk about a little bit is sometimes the logo, I mean the package design can be inspired by the logo. So like for here, I'm using this O shape to create like this circle label that we can use and fit within this space. And I'm just testing it out to see what I can make with it.
Nice. I think yesterday as well, because it's with the font that you chose yesterday, which was actually really cool, going through the typography of the and your process of how you selected these designs, was that in certain characters like the O, the A, and I think even the E, it sets itself up for using some of those graphics right inside, like the leaf, for example, sitting inside the O, or the way the kind of curving on the S sits. Because again, these are all kind of things as designers we have to kind of think about, right? The relation between the type, the graphic, it could be subtle, but these are the elements that kind of make and break a brand. So yeah, it's really cool. I can see actually, oof. Okay, the results are in, and I mean, I feel like a X Factor results there, but it seems as though we've got 4 votes each. Well, so more than actually, but we've got design 2 and 3 are exactly equal.
Oh wow!
So there we go. You may have to make an executive decision, Kevin.
Okay.
Oh, hang on, no. I've got a recap from Ray saying actually I think 3 is now leading. There we go. So the executive decision has now been revoked.
I was gonna pick option 2. So
I mean, to be honest, we could do it in a nice way where we go 3 because it's the people's choice, but also we go with 2 as well, because if that's, I mean, you are the designer, you're the chef.
We can do what we did yesterday and kind of like play around with it, because this is not done. Like we still need to play around with those other things that need to go on here. So let's do that.
Nice. And it's a nice time to say actually again, so we're about, I mean, time is really going really fast, but about over an hour now into our stream. So if you have just joined us, whether it's on YouTube or Behance, firstly, massive welcome. And today we have the very talented brand designer Kevin Kraft from Dallas, and he is creating in the process, I should say, of designing some packaging for a coffee shop based in Dallas. And right now we're in Illustrator, creating some graphics and working in mockups. So a massive welcome if you've just joined us. And of course, any questions, please do get them in the chat, and we will share them directly with Kevin whilst he's in the flow of it.
Okay, so now I'm going to play around with these different information pieces that need to go on the front of this bottle. So what I'm going to do is, we've already chosen a font yesterday for this tagline where it just says coffee. So I would recommend going with the same font to keep it consistent.
That was your favorite. Was it Sophia?
Oh yeah, Sophia Pro.
There we go. I know. I feel like all designers, we have our little gems of like favorite 1 or 2, maybe even more, of like fonts that we try and sneak them in when we can because we like to use them a lot. So yeah, that's quite a nice font that you're working with there. Is there different weights on that font as well? Do they come with like a regular?
Yeah, there's a lot of them actually. It goes from ultra light to black. So
nice. I feel like we had definitely a comment. It's towards the far part, but someone said about, I think the graphics looking so good. They mentioned I need to drink some of this. So there we go. We've depending on the time difference and where you're tuning it, I mean, this could be your breakfast. It could be like a late night coffee treat. But there we go. You're designing graphics that people want to eat and drink, Kevin. So
I mean, that's great. That's the goal.
There we go. We've got off-topic questions. I do love an off-topic question, but we bring it back as well. So we've got K.E. Davis who said, well, actually, it's relating to the weather in London. What's the temperature in London? I mean, is it too hot for coffee? I imagine. We discussed yesterday. I think iced coffee. For me, I've been drinking so much iced coffee recently, like an iced latte. Are you guilty of that, Kevin? Do you like an iced latte?
Oh yeah, actually, I just remembered that I skipped mine today, so I'm like,
I love it. Straight after the stream, I'm going straight to get myself a
I'll be right back.
It's just coming back in a second. And in temperature, I'm not actually sure. I mean, it's cooled down a lot. It was. I mean, I feel like I'm in no position to complain about the heat, where some countries it's the norm, right? But us Londoners, when you put us to heat, things go into meltdown, no pun intended. But it's quite hot, but it's a bit cooler today. But also, where are you tuning in from, K Davis? Is it warm? Is it day? Is it night over there? Let us know. And is coffee too late to have? I mean, is there a time to have coffee? I guess it's a morning thing, right? But I mean, I'm guilty of like a coffee midday or even latter part. Do you have like a coffee intake, Kevin, of what you?
Yeah.
How much coffee is too much coffee, basically?
All right. I feel like mine is like milder than most people's, but I usually have one small cup in the morning of hot coffee, and then after lunch I'll have like an iced coffee to kind of like carry me through the rest of the day. Refresh it.
Do you know what? I've tried to actually mix it up. I don't sound really boring here, but I like herbal teas. I won't geek out and tell you the collection of mint teas I've got in the cupboards, but I do like, I try and have like one coffee a day if I can, and then the rest is just mint or calamine or whatever. Not as fun or as quirky as coffee, but it still does the job to an extent. We've got a question from Wade based on designs. He said, Kevin, how do you come up and / generate your ideas? Is there like a method what's your way of coming? How does inspiration come when you create ideas?
That's a really good question. I usually start from the mood board that I've created with the client, and that comes a lot from finding inspiration on Behance, Pinterest, Instagram, and also just like thoughts that I have sketched down. And then I don't know, like a lot of it comes from just like doing a lot of sketches afterwards. I try to do as many as possible at the beginning, and then at the end, narrowing it down to the ones that you think are going to be the most successful. Like I think about like, for instance, when we talk about those words that we selected at the beginning, I think about the ideas that use the most of those words, that have like the most meaning, and then I go from there.
Nice. I mean, I like how you mentioned, because you're reverting back to the brief. The brief is always the core of where things are kind of stemming out from. And you mentioned those kind of key words, excuse me, that relates to graphics and shapes. And for me, it's kind of pen to paper first of all, and then just trying to think of almost visuals that represent those keywords. If it is community, what do you think of community in terms of shapes? Is it circular? Is it, and triangle, these kind of elements, rather than thinking, okay, I need to design the very final design in the next 10 minutes when you've just got the brief. Excuse me. These things take time, right? So that was a great question. And again, for in the chat, I know obviously Wade's also another designer as well, an amazing designer, I should say that. How do you guys come up with your ideas? Does it kind of come naturally sometimes? Are you born with that gift of boom, I know what it is, I'm running with it? Or do you need some time to marinate, digest, step away from wherever you are, and get a new sort of source for inspiration? What's your ways of generating ideas? Let us know in the chat, and I'll definitely share them with Kevin.
So I am at a good place to do another poll for these designs.
I don't think I've done so many polls in my life,
Yeah.
Kevin. Yeah, I'm all polled out. No, that's good. No, we love a poll here. Okay, so I mean, we've got a lot of less options this time, so maybe even easier actually, or even harder, depending on how you're looking at it. So left or right, one or two, one being left. What are you guys thinking vibe-wise? Yeah, let's definitely do a little poll, Wade, or you can just put it in the chat. Either way, what's your vibe, Kevin? What are you thinking?
So I think I'm gonna try and influence the audience.
You don't tell them that, Kevin. You just do. I love that.
No, I'm gonna speak to each of these. So I would say that what I like about this one is I feel like this pattern is very eye-catching, and it really goes along with this logo that we've created. But in a different way. Like it would be different if I just like reproduce this logo over and over again. It's pieces of these logos creating its own unique pattern. I think that the pattern speaks to the community and organic aspect of what we're trying to do. So that's what I have to say about that one. And then this one, I can see it being like these different shapes and forms coming together, so that like also has to do with community and being organic, and it utilizes the drop-like shape of say like a drop of coffee. So that's what I have to say about each of these.
Boom. So guys, there we go. You have a nice little breakdown of the designer, what he thinks in terms of graphics, what works well for both designs, and what is your vibe. We've got Wade, who just put a lovely fresh link poll into that chat for you guys to click on and let us know. So we'll let our lovely audience kind of take a few minutes or so to digest it and get that. But whilst we're doing that and waiting for those results, I've got a question actually based on, you mentioned community. Obviously that is quite a focal point of the brand, the business. I mean, where you're based now in Dallas, I have no idea what the creative scene in Dallas is like. What is the vibe, the atmosphere in terms of the creative scene? I mean, probably has it changed maybe even during post-COVID and post-lockdown and all these things? Has it changed? Yeah.
I would say it's been kind of like hard to get back into since COVID. Beforehand, I was going to a lot of different creative networking events. I also, I know a lot of creatives in the area, and I make it a point to like go get coffee with them or something like that. Like,
nice.
But like, I would say the creative scene in Dallas is pretty strong. Like, there's a lot of us here that are doing our own creative thing. There are also a lot of great places to work here as well. So yeah.
Nice. I mean, even that touching on that topic of community, that's kind of like a nice way to lead into, I mean, with Adobe Live, and especially if you lovely people in the audience are quite new to Adobe Live and what this is about, you know, these kind of streams is what we do, you know, daily. And it's amazing because you're able to sit with creatives like Kevin from different areas of the world and find out about their backgrounds, their stories, and their communities. So, you know, even when myself and Kevin are no longer on the stream anymore, definitely check out more and more streams to kind of get a feel of how other creatives operate and work. I mean, the London scene in the creative scene is forever booming as well. I mean, we're quite fortunate to have, I mean, especially with my collection of friends as well. I've got a lot of mates who are freelancers now, actually. A lot of them decide to kind of do their own thing since after lockdown and during even lockdown, where, you know, for multiple reasons, mental well-being and other things, people just needed to have an outlet and do something separate to their other job. So a lot of them now have kind of taken that on and made that some of their careers. So yeah, I feel like the creative scene is forever booming, especially when you've got students and graduates who are quite fresh and wanting to kind of, you know, put their mark on it. So that's quite cool to hear what the Dallas community is saying. I have to take a trip out there, Kevin.
Oh yeah.
See what's happening.
I feel like another really important thing that I have learned about that is that your network is like a really big part of your industry. And it's not just about your portfolio, it's also about like getting to know people, because that's going to be the backbone of who you're going to work with, and like the flow of clients that are coming in.
Mm.
So that's something that I really wish that I knew when I was a student, or like just starting out right out of school. So like I definitely wanted to share that with everyone.
No, that's cool. And you mentioned that word network as well, because I don't know how we got on that topic, but we spoke about the TikTok, because I know you're quite active on your TikTok. I'm not as cool as that. I'm not that cool yet to be on it, but I feel like, yeah, there's a whole, with social media, right? There's a whole presence that you, especially when you're a freelance, you work for yourself, where you feel like you need to kind of put out, otherwise no one knows who you are or what you're about, which in itself can be quite stressful. I don't know if you ever find, it's enjoyable, but it's also, it takes a lot sometimes, right? Because you need to prepare and you need to push out and so forth. How do you kind of find that balance of working, but also having a social, because your social media presence is quite sharp, and you know, your LinkedIn, you're pretty much on every platform. How do you, is that a balance, or does it just come naturally because you enjoy, you know, these kind of platforms out there for an outlet?
I feel like it's something that you kind of have to make time for once you start your own business. Like it is important. But what I have found is I know like which ones are getting the most traction for me. And I kind of focus on those rather than like trying to do like all of them. So like I get a lot of clients on LinkedIn. So that's kind of like, that's my main one that I post to. And then I get less clients on Instagram. So I post to Instagram like once a month, or like once or twice a month. I don't post to it daily. So that's kind of like my perspective, is like, you definitely don't want to burn out. And once you figure out like which one works the best for you, I would say like concentrate on that one.
That's a very good, because it is very easy to kind of, I've always had that belief where you work to your strength, right? And if you're trying to spread yourself very thin and feel like you need to be on these things, even if you don't feel like that is the right one, something's gonna let down, right? And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, for me, LinkedIn is also my kind of bread and butter. And yeah, it's funny because I mean, each platform has its own perks and upsides, downsides, but yeah, it's whatever works, what's best for you. We've got some great comments relating back to, you know, we mentioned about how you get inspiration, your ideas. We've got people sharing their thoughts. We've got Simon, who said, I don't really get inspired. I just let my body take over, and I always just start searching my mind. That is deep. I love that.
Yeah, that is so deep.
There we go. I have one with the design.
I wish that was my answer.
I love that, Simon. That is awesome. And we've got Stoney, who said, I learned everything online during the COVID period. So I have no in-person creative. So yeah, I mean, it's good and bad, right? It's still healthy to meet people in the flesh, but there's also a lot of benefits to, you know, people abroad you can meet, like we're doing now, and you have that benefit. And we've got one more from Wade, who said, I usually get started just by making some sketches, and I see what I can find, but that's more for illustrative work. So that's a good point. It depends on the sector as well, but there always tends to be a kind of underlying narrative of, you know, drawing pen to paper first and then designing. But Kevin, you'll be happy to know we have some results for your poll.
Okay, great.
There we go. So we it seems as though poll left. There we go. Influence and design in the wrong way. It's design 2 on the right seems to be the favorite, quite overwhelmingly actually as well. So there we go.
Okay, great. Let's move forward with that one.
Sweet.
And then I can't remember who asked this, but they're saying that they do all of their design work online. I found, especially during the pandemic, that it's good to seek out Slack channels of designers.
That's a good point.
Because that's a really good resource, especially if like I'm in one where there's a section for like advice, or like there's like a show and tell section. So it's just like it's a very good resource, and it's a good way to meet people like all over the world if you're not really like physically going out and doing that.
That's a really cool way of seeing it as well. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of benefits, right, to doing things online, and maybe more so the world has just been kind of even more in that kind of metaverse and online. But yeah, it's definitely, obviously we're in limits, but of course, but you know, making the most of what you can do across seas and overseas and digesting it in. And on that topic of, you know, being inspired and digesting some cool content, we've got our artist spotlight in about half an hour or so's time. So definitely stay tuned in. I mean, that was like a friendly reminder for the chat. That was not for you, Kevin, to get worried. Don't worry, we're in a good place with this. We're in a good promise. So again, if you're quite new to what that is, or you're thinking, what is Art Spotlight? Or you can see a tab on your Behance, but think, what is that? That is basically a part of our segment that we'll do in about half an hour or so, where we just pay a bit of homage to a creative or creatives shortly. So we won't say who that is because we like to keep you guys in suspense, but it is, I promise you, it's a good one. And also as well, at the tab at the top, you'll see in Behance, you can click on there and hopefully you can either nominate yourself or even another creative and have the opportunity to be on the next Adobe Live. So stay tuned and we will share that with you guys very shortly.
Okay, so now that we have our front, we're going to start designing the back. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those different pieces of information.
We've got some, again, the comments are coming in nice, dude. So we've got Izzy who had to bounce, but she just said, had to leave. That's my London slang there. But she just said, I have to get going, but this has been amazing as per usual. I'll make sure to catch up on the replay to see the end product. So thanks for tuning in, Izzy. And again, keep those lovely comments coming in because I'm sure we would love to, well, we definitely would love to hear it.
So right now I'm just like placing things within that same barrier just to see like how I can separate these things visually. And then also I want to see if there's a way to bring in some of these elements over here to make the back feel cohesive.
Nice. Can I make one little suggestion? It just maybe because my eyes are absolutely rubbish. Can we zoom in a little bit just so we can get a? There we go. Now we can marvel on it, so we can all see that information. We've got when you gave your little gem about the idea of using Slack. We've got Stoney who said she'll definitely be checking out some different Slack channels as well. So thanks for the tip. So yeah, that's always nice when you have, and you can almost like inspire or even just encourage other creatives to use alternative ways of how they can find inspiration. So that's what this Adobe Live is all about, right? Sharing work, seeing other creatives, and getting a feel for how our community is. So I'm glad you found that useful, Stoney.
And typically, the manufacturer is going to give you the exact size that the barcode can be. There are a lot of rules around that. But right now I'm just kind of like going by what I've done in the past.
We make our own barcode. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever? I actually don't think I've actually designed. I've designed on different materials, but not on glass. Actually, I wonder the logistics of. I mean, again, with printers, you know, they tell you what the size is, you create it, and you work within that frame and the file format. But I think that'd be quite a cool to do different types of design on different materials, like whether it's glass or wood or laser cut, because that is quite a cool thing to do. I think to have the opportunity to work on different materials.
Yeah, I worked on one once, and from what I learned from the manufacturer was that it really depends on contrast. So if it's on something that has like a very dark background and it's a light color, it works as long as there's contrast. But if it's like two things that are too close, that's when you get into trouble.
That's a good shit. I guess in a way, having you know, our design, we had the label in a way that it kind of, I won't say word cheats it, but in a way, because you're putting it directly onto a solid background, so you kind of get away with it being. But when it goes directly on the material itself, then yeah, I guess it's and that's where I think the beauty of knowing a really great printer, or knowing that, you know, if anything goes wrong with the file you send, that they hopefully they won't charge you for that, but they will, you know, maybe pick up on it, or even better, you can kind of, you know, understand and have a knowledge of how you kind of, you know, send the right file formats and what you're working with. Because I always find within our sector, printers are definitely will definitely be your best friends, especially if you're doing a lot of print work or in that realm, because it's so important to kind of know that logistics of how files should be sent to printers. Once it's printed, especially if it's batch produced, like you said, that's it, dudes. That is it to the world.
I also feel like they're eager to work with you because they don't want to have to like have the issue of like having to reprint something or something like that, like or the client being unhappy, because they're looking for to have a vendor like for life basically. So they've always been like super helpful.
Definitely. Do you have like a favorite or like a go-to supplier for printers that you tend to work with, or that ones that you they just basically they get you and you get them and it's nice? Do you have that?
I usually go by whoever the client has, or not for something like this. Well, actually, I was working on a package design last week where I have been working with a brand called No Issue. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't, no.
They do a lot of
but I don't know.
It's like a lot of recyclable package design.
Okay.
But like they've been pretty easy to work with.
Nice. Are you just saying that because maybe someone from No Issues in the chat they decided to, they just walked in and then boom. No, that's cool. That's I think that's interesting. You mentioned, so usually the clients they have a printer or someone that they already know already. I mean, I found as well within my line of work that sometimes they go for your recommendations as well. If you're a freelancer, they know that you may have worked with a few, and actually there's almost a peace of mind knowing that if they go with your suggestion, especially if you've used them several times, that you know the job will be done in the best way because you feel comfortable, you know the person, especially if it's like an editorial or print based. But yeah, printers will definitely be your friends, folks. We've got a good question from Fergie on that topic of labels. And she said, random question, when designing labels, is there a legal font size you have to use on packaging? That's interesting.
Yes. So typically you want to go with like my philosophy with it is if you are printing something where the text is very small, try and go with a sans serif if you can, because you're wanting this information here to be as legible as possible. So like I haven't put this on the actual dimensions yet, but I would say like anything that is under 7 point is probably too small. So that's just like my advice is to go by that.
Nice. Hopefully that answers your question, Fergie. And nothing random about that at all. We love those kind of questions. Those are because again, maybe someone in the chat is also quite curious, but so those kind of questions, we love to hear them. And we've got a lovely comment actually from Stoney. He said, Adobe Live has saved my mind. So there we go. we're saving design worlds and saving minds as well at the same time. So thanks for that lovely comment. And we're glad that you're enjoying it as well. Again, these streams are made for you guys to learn, to be inspired. So again, you know, thank you for tuning in and definitely keep on watching more and more streams as we kind of go through the week. That's looking cool. I'm liking that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get it straight. So yeah, I'm trying to create a border here to tie in some of the elements from this part. And then to speak back to like printing, another thing that they usually advise like if any of you have used Moo before to print your business cards, they always give you a dimension for like what's too small to do like gold foil or anything like that. So that's very important too. You want to make sure that you create elements that when they get tiny, they're not going to like morph together, because like for something like this, you are screen printing it. So it's like, this is something that's living on the surface of the glass.
That's a very, very good point. I mean, yeah, brands like Moo, they do make it very easy for you to kind of operate. And I think as well, it's those kind of questions where it's if you don't know and you're unsure, definitely ask, because nothing worse than pretending to know or you know, and it slips through the cracks, and then it's not how you, or even worse, the client envisioned it. Yeah, those kind of questions are quite important to know. But once you do know them, then it just makes your future jobs so much easier. Nice, the little rotation there going on. Cool.
Yeah, just adding in some symmetry for the back.
Also samples. I mean, samples are quite important as well, right? With printers, and especially if you're batch producing. I mean, I think most printers should hopefully do a sample of some sort. Again, it maybe depends on the material, but maybe we're talking in, say, editorial terms, or you know, the print stock and things like that. You know, a good printer will definitely print you a nice sample, so you get a feel for how that's going to look before you commit. So definitely, yeah, if you get an opportunity to do samples, and you know, again, that might mean maybe an extra day or so into the design process. Always take it, because when you see that sample, just having it in hand, something tactile, it will change your mind. Oh, not change your mind, but it should. What's I'm looking for? It will make it easier for you to have an understanding of how that will work when you actually do press the big red button and go, you know, full blast on all your designs. So always say yes to a sample. Within context, I realize what I meant. But yeah, within context.
So I actually have like some space up here for the back, and I thought maybe I could tie in like some text that kind of talks like about the coffee shop, or maybe it's like a tagline or something like that.
Nice.
So I'm gonna grab some of the text from here real quick.
Do you know what I've seen recently actually on a few packs? I mean, it definitely ranges, but it's maybe more on like sweet wrappers and things like that, where they put either jokes or something quite quirky, because it's more of like it's almost like an Easter egg if it was like a game, for example, where you find like a golden nugget of something that you wasn't expecting it. And for me, I love those kind of because it might go so unnoticed by some of the consumers as well. But I guess it's like, if you like the brand and you kind of, you know, take a bit of an eye into the design of it, when brands do little nuggets like that or put a joke in there or something, just kind of keeps you engaged. I think that's quite cool. It just makes it even more engaging. You could even do like a fun fact about the coffee beans, or how they were done, how they were sourced, or you know, what is good for the environment. Those kind of, because I think a lot of people like to know where things have come from as well, especially if it's in that realm of giving back to the environment.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just like do something on the fly here, I guess.
We've got some another question there from excuse me, Lysandra, who said, even though you have a lot of experience, what is something that still surprises you? Oh, good question.
That is a really good question.
What keeps you on your toes, Kevin? Besides Adobe Live and polls, what keeps you on your toes?
Something that still surprises me. I feel like even though like I have a lot of experience, there's always new things that come out that make, like, especially softwares that make my life so much easier, and that does really surprise me, because I feel like when I graduated, I was like, this is it. Like this is like this is as good as like it's gonna get. But like the technology, it just keeps getting better and better. Like I keep learning new shortcuts to make my life easier. So
that's a good shout. Definitely, shortcuts will, once you've mastered that, you realize how streamlined your work process can be, right? Once you're plowing through and you're getting a feel for it. And again, shortcuts, these kind of things, you learn that again watching these tutorials, watching our lives, because a lot of our designers, they will drop these gems in and they will do shortcuts, and you know, anything doesn't make sense or you want us to repeat, always let us know, because for you guys, that's the most important thing, that you learn and you can actually, you know, put it to good use yourselves when you're actually designing on the program. So that was a great question. What surprises you? What surprises you, Alessandra, actually, from in your work? If you're in the creative space, anything, any stories or experiences, we'd love to hear it. And anyone else in the chat too. And we've got a question here from K.E. Davis, who said, any secondary ideas of incorporating those colors you shown earlier, the earth tone, green and brown, for the chosen images of the leaves and coffee? I think we touched on, again, with color on especially when it's transparent glass, with the color of what the product is. That's sometimes tricky, you know, because you kind of have to keep it in the white, unless it was, say, at the label, right, where it's on the white solid label.
Yeah, I would say that, and if we have time, we'll definitely get into this. But like the way that I see this package design is like, it lives in this coffee shop where it wants to present itself as like this like delicious cold brew coffee. You see it and you're not really like distracted by anything else other than recognizing that it says Oak Street and it has the logo. But those colors could be used throughout the store in other places as well. So like there could be like stickers being sold at the front, or like the baristas could be wearing that green color. Like
Nice.
when you think about branding, you could think about like the atmosphere that it lives in, because this is really just one piece of it. It could even like maybe their cups are all green or something like that.
I loved. And do you have? I mean, I think that was in your brief at the very beginning, wasn't it? The shot of the interior.
Oh yeah.
We got it. Obviously, again, for anyone who may have came a bit late and they're quite curious about how that interior, you can see right now on the screen. You know, that's the kind of mood, the kind of vibe that you get. And they were saying, is it for young professionals that they were? What was the audience that they're kind of? Yeah. So you can imagine there, your laptop, just kind of, you know, watching Adobe Lives or designing and doing your thing in the background. But you mentioned those color palettes, which even of the lighting as well. I think lighting also sets the moods quite a lot in an environment as well. So depending on the type of lighting that you work with, so those color palettes, like you were suggesting, KE, that could work really well, maybe in some of these elements too.
Yeah,
even the
definitely.
plant pots as well, like the plant pots, the actual pots they sit in as well. That could be quite nice.
So here we have a layout that I'm pretty happy with for the front and the back. Actually, might even move this down a little bit.
Nice. I mean, just give you a little nice little heads up. So we're about 13 minutes, so precise, 30 minutes or so before we jump into our artist spotlight. So we could definitely keep flowing until we get into that in about 30 minutes or so's time. But whilst you're doing that, again, we've got a great comment. It's actually the comment touching on about what surprises you from Sandra again, who said, "What surprises me is how much more women of color there are in the design industry that is not often highlighted when I was in design school." That's a great comment. I feel like, I mean, that's the beauty as well, what we do at Adobe Live, where we try to, work and show you guys a range of different designers, diversity, backgrounds, cultures, because that's how we learn, right? We learn from differences. So I'm really glad that you were able to, Alessandra, to find within your space. And that's a great comment. That's a really great comment to hear.
So since we have like a little bit of time before we jump to the artist spotlight, I thought maybe we can go through some mock-ups that I prepared to kind of like show the breadth of where the brand can go.
Let's do it.
So we'll be in Photoshop for this.
These mockups looking great, dude. Really nice.
Yeah. So what I like to do is, especially when I'm working on mockups, I like to have several of them in one file, and then I make artboards out of each one. Because for me, it's easier to see if a design is, or if a design is like becoming a brand identity, if I see multiple things working together. So what I like to do is I like to have like different ones out. So like here is one where this is a like a water bottle, or like a coffee thermos or something. But it already has like that green color. And what I usually do is I'll just like get into that artboard and I'll take part of the logo. So like I can use that logo type. And I can think of an interesting way to do this where it's not just like the logo plopped right on that water bottle. We can use this logo type so where it gets like pretty big and it's vertical like that.
Could we
so
just like, so we can really like marvel what you're like, could we enlarge the screen on the phone just so we can marvel? So I don't want to interrupt your flow of it, but I want to make sure everyone can really see it. Sweet, go for it.
And then I'll also grab the logo here.
You can imagine as well, these would work quite nice, you know, if they're, because I know some coffee shops tend to also sell products as well, obviously. So if it's cover banners, social media graphics, you know, these could work really quite nice as like products that they're trying to promote and to sell in the community.
Actually, I've been starting a collection of coffee shop t-shirts that I buy.
I love that.
The thing is, they're always like really, like they always have really interesting designs on them. And they're always like really good quality. They're like better quality than like if you went to an actual store. So
I'm missing out, dude. I don't think we have that in London. I need to go to Dallas just to kind of rock out a coffee branded t-shirt. I feel like for another stream, for another time, we're gonna have to have your collection, Kevin, of nice shirts all presented of each coffee shops that you visited all around the Dallas community.
Well, I'll have to work on the collection a little bit more then.
Love that.
And so for this photo, like this could be like a social media post, so I can put the logo like right in these coffee beans here.
Do you know what my brain was thinking with the, oh, sorry to interrupt you.
When I usually select photos, I think about like for instance, this photo, I liked that it had that green color in it. So I kind of think about that. And if I can't find something, I'll manipulate the photo a little bit in Photoshop to where it like, I just want it to feel very cohesive. So when I show it to the client, they'll get it right away.
So would they see it almost like thumbnails within the PDF? So that, like you said, they kind of sit, because there is a color linkage between all three in a way. Do you kind of, is that how you would present it in your final mockup?
I usually, what I do is in my presentations, it'll be like one by one, and at the end it'll be a collage of all of them together so they can see how they're like all working.
Nice. My brain was thinking just before, I was going to say, because of the shape of that graphic, how it sits, you can almost imagine that on the bottle lid itself as the icon, because it almost sets itself up quite nicely. I love little elements like that where you can just, I almost feel like as well with brands, especially if they're new brands, it's a bit brave maybe to start doing just the icon and not have the name. It's almost like until people start to know who you are and to familiarize yourself with the brand, that's when you start digesting it and almost dissecting, I should say. So just it being the icon. But I mean, if you've got the confidence, then flaunt it and run with it. And then people might even, you know, even curiosity might just be a good way of attracting people too.
Yeah, that's true.
So we have got about a, I'll give you a little, like, nice little countdown for you guys, but about 7 minutes or so. or 6 minutes, I should say, until our artist spotlight. So we mentioned it a lot, actually. So by all means, we said it because it is a very good one. Hopefully that keeps you guys on your toes because you're curious to know who it is. So stay tuned, and we will definitely be sharing with you that in the next sort of 5 or 6 minutes or so's time. So stay tuned.
So yeah, we got some mock-ups here.
It's looking nice. Have you got a sort of favorite mock-up that you think will work quite well in the shop? What would you buy if you were in that shop? What is your? It's very difficult to ask a designer what would they buy from their own designs, but I guess it's like, is there anything that kind of grabs your? Oh, I might get that.
Like from here?
Yeah, from that. I mean, it's a bit of a trick, almost trick question, isn't it? Asking the designer what do you like best about your design that you would buy? But or even better, even put that question to the audience. Actually, what is if these products were in your local shop, just be branded? I get borrowing obviously the far left one, but the water bottle, some stickers. Everyone has a sticker. What is kind of your vibe? What would you go for? Or even better, what would be useful as well? Because you want to get a product that is actually of use, right? So yeah, we got a favorite out of the two. We won't do a poll just yet because I know we love our polls, but only because of timing. But by all means, definitely get in the chat what you're feeling: the water bottle or the sticker.
Actually, I kind of have an idea, but I'm only thinking about this because like I do this a lot. I always put stickers on my water bottle. So I wanted
do
to
you
see
really?
like,
okay.
Yeah. So like I have ones that like I've designed and then ones that like I've gotten from other places. But like maybe we can like see what it looks like if there's one on here.
Do you know what's interesting? My brain, I don't really do this, and I feel like a lot of designers tend to do it, but like put stickers on their laptops or like MacBooks. Yeah. Are you a sticker concierge of a?
I have one. I have one single sticker on mine actually.
Okay, I love it. Is it this graphic here on the screen?
No. I actually kind of like this, but it's a sticker that I made when I was first starting out. And I have a case that's actually this color, this like dark green color. And the colors of the sticker are like these like reds and golds, and so it really like pops off of the
nice
off of the laptop.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like I do want to invest in some stickers for the laptop. I just don't know what to do yet.
Yeah.
There we go. And we got the comments have been really, really positive, dude. Everyone's loving the mock-ups. Josh is saying these mock-ups are really making me fall in love with the logo. And yeah, again, the comments are all positive and all good, man. So let's keep those coming in because it's we love to hear them. We love to hear them. I also think as well with the mock-ups, maybe even more with the stickers where it's on a solid background, but you're able to maybe use more of the color palettes of the different logos as well. Obviously in certain cases where you can only really get away with, like for example on the green, it wouldn't work well with a brown logo, but where it's a white or even, I mean, putting it out there, if the image on the far left with the lady holding the coffee beans, if depending on the mood and the vibe of the brand, if it was in the black and white, say the image, and then actually the color logo on top, just so it has that nice contrast. There's a lot of ways you can kind of almost really share to the client what those color palettes will be without actually having to show them a color swatch. Because again, sometimes clients are quite literal, right? So they need to see it in context. But I've actually got a question for you, Kevin. Quite curious, how many mock-ups are too many mock-ups would you say when you're doing a project or to sending it to a client?
So actually is a really great question. I would say that when you're doing mock-ups, just make sure that it applies to the client. Like, don't show anything that's like a random mock-up. Like if like if they're like a very corporate client, don't do like a beanie or something like that. Like because then they'll see it as like, oh, you're like trying to trick me. You're just like trying to show this logo on like as many things as possible. But
Can you imagine if, oh, sorry, no, I interrupt you, sorry.
I think the most that I've done for a presentation is I do like 4 per concept. So I usually do 4 or less.
Nice, that's a solid, nice and equal. It's made me laugh when you mentioned about the client and trying to trick them. My brain's fit. I can imagine you get that one client is like, I wasn't expecting to see my icon on the side of a plane, but now you're thinking really ambitiously. So might even get a plane, and then you never know how they might interpret. But no, you made a very good point about. I mean, for it seems, especially if it's actually mock-ups that actually will be used or potentially used by the client, you want to keep it on brand and making sense. And we've got quite a funny one from comment from Wade, actually going back to that stickers, and that's actually a great question, isn't it? Comment, not actually a funny one. Who said, "Can we get that sticker in a scratch and sniff for the different roast flavors?" That's an awesome way of doing it.
That is a great idea.
Can you imagine? That'd be awesome. Just to, just go around and just start sniffing, stickers.
Maybe they could just like rub it on some coffee beans or something.
Or even, I mean, I'm going to go out there now and my brain goes off piece every now and again, but getting in like where the interior of the space is, can you imagine they have like rooms, like almost like immersive rooms where you get a feel of like the smell of particular beans and the lighting, and there we go. I feel like an idea can easily be had there from a project, but not yet. But on that sort of line, I should say, I think it's time, Kevin, to get into our artist spotlight. Should we really delve into who we have today? We've kept you guys in suspense for quite a long time, so now we can say who we are looking at. And today we have Steve Wolf Designs. So 2 partners, Steve and Danielle Wolf, who are amazing graphic design and branding studios. So we're on, this is the Bar Hearts page, isn't it? So maybe we can pick out, Kevin, a few projects that we both like and share some love to it. Is there anything that sort of draws your attention first? I mean, everything looks amazing, so I'm happy for you to start anywhere you want to start. I'm already there, but what's your vibes going towards?
Okay, now? This is one that I have seen on his Instagram that's really cool, and he's done icons for every U.S. national park, and so awesome. He had released them as a series, so every day it was like a different one of these on Instagram. And I just think that the style is so cool. And the way that he's put it together is kind of like I could see every one of these being like a poster or on a t-shirt or something like that. They're just like very interesting. I can also show
just on that as well, I was going to say, I love that you mentioned about it being they am I right in saying you said they released out for their social media? There we go, we can see it right there. That's also quite a nice strategic way of actually sharing the visuals out, where you kind of have to wait for the following week and it builds up hype. And I mean, the color palette, it works so well, right? The nice contrast they've got.
I think one of the things that has drawn me to his work the most is his use of color, because it's very vibrant. All of these colors are working. It's just very impressive.
No, it's great. I mean, I feel, like you said, a t-shirt, actually, it's funny because I've got a t-shirt with a sort of similar colors, that green one there. I mean, I say green one there, there's a lot of green ones there, but I've got a few t-shirts, and you can imagine these working so nice right on t-shirt, even bags as well, tote bags. These are really, really cool projects. Really cool project to work on. I definitely had a favorite in that on Bahant's page that you were on, maybe because my brain goes into editorial and print mode, but I saw where was it? I think it's September on the far right column, on the bottom one, the print one.
Oh, this one.
There we go. Yeah, my brain saw print and I was like, yeah, I've got to have a look at that. And by the way, please do put in the comments in the chat, what the vibes you're getting from the work you're seeing, because these are amazing designs. So again, we're paying homage today for Steve Wolf Designs. What's your thoughts on these designs, Kevin?
I love this one too. I've actually been asked to do an illustration for Dallas Child as well. And this one looks way better than mine, but I love like the way that he has found like his own style to apply to this. And then it still works with their layout, because I feel like that's like one thing that's really difficult about doing editorial design is like finding a way to like have all these things work together. So I think the illustration is great.
I think that's great. What is because I don't know Dallas Child. I've never heard of Dallas Child before. What is that? I mean, that's that again. Does it relate with the graphic that he's created? Again, do you know Dallas Child as a brand? What that is?
Oh yeah. So every month they have a different illustrator do a illustration for like 5 best things to do. So like I think mine was July, or maybe it was May. So mine was like 5 best things to do in May, and so mine was kind of like summer themed.
Nice.
And so this one's September, so it has like the fall leaves and everything.
Nice. Should we jump into again? I feel like a kid in a candy shop because, and actually on that topic of candy and food, that ice cream one. I mean, on that left, your cursor is on the.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah, these are looking amazing. A really nice way of using the shapes and colors.
Yeah, and even photography too.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, that is I don't think I've ever tried that flavor, but I would not say no if I was given that for dessert. This looks amazing, really nice. What's your vibes when you see these as well, graphics and the shapes? And
I'm a real sucker for modular design. So I love that he's using these like very vintage colors and then applying them in this almost like mid-century modern way. And then I like that the background of this can be like very textured, but then like right where you need to read it, it's very clear. Like it's all black and white. And it's like, you know exactly what flavor that is.
Definitely. Do you know what I love as well? It's the tiniest little detailed designs, but you see how the ice cream scoop is just slightly overlapping the label. It's little things like that where it just gives it more depth, right, to the design. Yeah, I'm a sucker for that. But these are, and even the colors and the shapes, it relates to the almost like the sort of nuggets that are inside of the ice cream itself. So it feels like a nice direct correlation between the color and the product. Yeah, really, really cool. Maybe should we jump into maybe 2 more projects as well, as we're here as well. And I can see already in the chat, everyone is loving the designs as well. We've got Carol said, nice client. Alessandra said, these are looking great as well. So very, very cool.
I think this was the first one that I ever saw of his. And I just like really liked it how clean it is. And like, I think he's only using black and white, or yeah, there's a little bit of a color in this, but it's just it's very eye-catching.
It's interesting that could you go up a little bit? There was a one where I don't know, can we it's where it's like several packages and the different colors at the top. Can we click into that can that go a bit?
Thanks.
Yeah, so that's my eyes are really rubbish here, but it's like I feel like there's a graphic that is similar to what we were doing of our bottle, where you've pieced together the graphics from the top and the bottom. So it looks like there's a strip at the bottom and then it kind of relates to the top. So there's little details like that. And again, people start to get familiar with color, right? So they kind of know, right, cool, I'm in that particular color, I'm in that particular flavor. So yeah, I feel like they're using that color theory method, right, to kind of draw people in. And yeah, it looks great. It looks really clean, really, really great. And the mockups help as well, right? When you have those strong, that also, I mean, design, of course, is absolutely got to be, you know, sharp. But when you have those mockups that complement it, the two go hand in hand. And maybe we pick maybe one more. I mean, I feel like we could pick so many, but I mean, do we have the website up as well so we can get a feel for
sure,
who they are as well? Because I think on their website they had an image of Steve and Danielle correctly. So there we are in the flesh. So I mean, these guys, definitely check them out, and I think we've got a link in the chat so you guys can marvel at the design and check them out. But if you go on there, maybe their work on the homepage, and we can get a feel for, I mean, even the way the website is designed, right? The cleanness, the layout, and the grid. It looks awesome. Is any for a final one? No pressure. But is anyone that sort of picks your fancy? I'm
actually I don't know if I've seen this one before, so I'm curious to click into it. But I also like how he does his case studies.
Yeah, I love that. If you can you go up a little bit, just sort of marvel just a second at that image where, yeah, the different, because again, it's similar to our one, right, where it's transparent bottle, and then they've got that, I think we touched on it yesterday, the opacity, right, or if it's darkened or lighter of the tint of what the product is, with the green and the brown, yeah, and then obviously the white kind of just makes it even more super clean at the top. But I'm loving these. I think these are absolutely great. And even the way they've got the word with as well, to kind of break up, just to kind of like nice little lock up, right? As a graphic. What would you go for out of those four, dude? What's your?
Oh,
what
I'm usually not. I'm not someone that like goes for like the sweet. I would probably go for
like savory man.
Maybe this tea latte.
Okay. Well, as it's Friday tomorrow, I probably would have a caramel one. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
sweet in the deal for the week. So you were scrolling through the rest of the.
I also like the art direction that's applied to this photography. Like this is really interesting and not what I would expect for like a tea latte. Like that it's on these geometric platforms and like you see like these two things that are making the product.
Even the hierarchy as well, right? It's the product is there, but it's showing you the ingredients behind what is the final thing and put on that plinth. Because I mean, that is clearly, well, I would imagine that's not a bought mock-up. That's a staged art directed shoot that they. So again, and you can see the difference, right? Between nothing wrong with mock-ups, but when you art directed it yourself and a bit more love has gone into it and curation, and these are great, really, really great. Yeah, I mean they've already got me there. The chocolate chunks there, I think. That fudge, that's looking, and the color palette looks so good.
Yeah,
so good. I need to purchase one of these drinks. I think there we go. Yeah, that's cool. That's why I think color palette wise, that's probably my favorite actually.
Yeah, this one is really.
Yeah, that stands out like anything.
And it's not easy to use multiple greens.
Yeah, they've done it. Good shout, very good shout. Yeah, that in itself is a gold star. Having the various different types of greens and the shading as well. Yeah, me trying to art direct a shoot like this, I feel like I'd be too tempted to eat the products or drink the products. So it's just like, yeah, it's looking very, very good. And
actually, I used to do art direction for Bertolli a few years back, and I was always eating the food that was on set.
I love that. Do you ever get a chance to even shoot the stuff, or was it just like there's just crumbs left from what the residue of what Kevin's been through? I love that. And that's good as well. The signage as well. That's I think we didn't touch on that much, did we? The again, the branding elements. We said tote bags and the interior, but the signage is so important. Nice. The perfect fuel for your latest adventure. Really good. Yeah, the way they've I think it's so, I mean that's the beauty as well of Behance when you have these curated designs. It's not just a case of just designing and putting them up, but actually how you curate them, how they sit together and how you present it is super important. But and also I mean that's a nice way to kind of maybe wrap up with our artist spotlight. But you know, for anyone who's very interested in seeing that, please do submit your recommendations for creatives to feature. And you can see that on the artist spotlight tab in the Behance chat, which is just at the top right hand corner. So click on that, submit your recommendations, and hopefully we'll see you guys next on our next artist spotlight, and we will pay some homage to that. So definitely share away. So yeah, to Steve and to Danielle, I mean a massive, amazing, well done on the work. I think it's safe to say that everyone is in love with your designs. But should we jump back into just for the kind of latter part now of your stream, the little bits you're working on now, and then I'd say about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll kind of wrap up a nice little closure.
Sure. So I have these here. And then another thing that I thought we can probably work on is, since I've already started this one, maybe work on some social media posts.
Nice.
So
I'd say what we'll do is, oh, sorry, I didn't interrupt you, dude. No, please go for it, please.
So what I usually do is like I'll have a mock-up like this that's kind of a blank slate, and it'll say the handle of the client, and also like it'll just have some dummy text for like what the client is about. And then I usually use this to show like how they can handle social media when they're launching their brand.
Nice. I feel like an Instagram carousel is like a sure winner, right? In terms of, especially if it's like social. Well, it depends on the brand, really. Not necessarily, it could be other platforms too. But if like an Insta carousel, it allows you to kind of see, especially within our mockups, right, the variance of how each one would kind of correlate together.
Yeah, and like I feel like with something like that, it's a good way to kind of like tell a story as well. Like because the person that's scrolling through that is like they're scrolling because they're interested, so they're gonna keep going and get more information.
You just my mind started to think about when you just said there about the idea of the story element, especially if they're a new brand and you're really trying to push that narrative of, you know, the obviously the idea of it coming from you know, being looking for being more aware of the environment, and obviously that could work really well for like a carousel story, and again introducing the graphics into that would be really great. And again, it just kind of it's that selling point, isn't it, of how you know, a brand should kind of feel like it's a story being told and you're engaged in that way. So yeah, carousels are quite a great way of actually displaying that.
I also like, I do this because it's a good way to show how the logo can be broken down. So like they can see how this logo is going to be used for like a favicon or their Instagram. I
think we touched on it yesterday. Nothing worse than you give the client a logo and then actually they use the wrong shape logo in like a in like a LinkedIn circle. It's like, oh crikey.
What's even worse is when they do it like this, and you're like,
yeah,
no,
you ruined the design.
But okay, I will say that sometimes it's hard to get it centered in there.
It is, exactly, and again, to be fair, the clients are not necessarily, well, usually they're not designers, right? So it's in a way, for us, it might feel like a frustration because it's so obvious, but for them, they're still learning about the process. And again, I always find, like with even my own clients, if you do a piece of work and it's completed and you see what they're actually using it, and something doesn't look just right based on the brand guidelines you created, I think it's totally fine to kind of bring them up and explain and, you know, let them know as a heads up, because they obviously want their brand to look as sharp and as consistent as possible. And sometimes it's almost I got to quickly post things and not really take that much consideration into what they're posting. So those elements, I think, is quite nice to walk a client through, for sure.
I think they would definitely appreciate it, or in my experience, they have.
But I was saying, because I know we're in that final stage of we're in the last 100-meter sprint now of our design. But I want to obviously, I know you're in that sort of stage of doing your last visual, so we definitely get that in there. But more importantly, we'll do like a nice little recap of what we've done, maybe even a bit of yesterday as well, but more so today as well. And then also what we'll do is a nice way of how our lovely audience can kind of, you know, reach out to you, dude, and to find out more about you and social media. But yeah, let's start with a nice little or you can definitely finish that last one. I don't want to pull you there from mid-flow of a design. What kind of monster would I be if I did that? So
I think for this one, I'll just pull in the copy from the back, and like I like to show clients that they can also do just like text posts like this to kind of break up the clutter of like so many images, and then I would use the logo. So like I would do something like that, and that's a good way to kind of like start a story, is just kind of like having some text to lead them in, and then you could even like incorporate images and other elements as well. So
yeah, that's great. And again, it really gives that the client, it just walks them through, right, how it should be used as a brand. I guess if in a different world, we'll do more of a brand guidelines as well and tighten these things up. But it's nice where you've done it in a way they can actually see it, right, being used and being executed. And in the brand guidelines, you know, you might show how the text and the icons would actually work with imagery and the center alignment and all these things. But dude, this has been amazing. I mean, should we perhaps do a nice little recap of what we've done? Maybe just for today, actually, rather than yesterday. Okay. But more recap of today, because definitely want to put some time in so that you can do, you can sell yourself. Hey, use that term, not sell yourself, but share to the world your social media and obviously how they can reach out to you.
Sure. So here's what we did today. We thought about different directions that the package design can go in. Talked about, like, I think we decided on it being screen printed versus using a label. And then we used different elements from the logo, or like inspirations from like these leaves or coffee to bring back the elements of organic, friendly, and community. So we did that by working on the front of it, and then we also incorporated the text from the manufacturer that needed to be on it. We used elements from the front also on the back to keep it nice and cohesive, but also very easily legible. And then also incorporating like the things that need to be going on there. Let's see what else.
Brilliant. I can see it already. I mean, whilst you're kind of giving that nice little roundup, we got people in the chat. We got Fergie saying, absolutely love this. Being great to watch this project unfold. Lissandra saying, you know, these are really great how these all come out as well. So I feel like everyone in the chat has really, you know, over yesterday and also today especially, has loved to sort of see this process unravel. So yeah, you were talking about obviously this last part that we were working on, right, just before.
Oh yeah, and then this last part is just like the mockups. So using it with photography, and then mocking it up on things that would actually be in the store, as well as showing it with the package design here.
Nice. It's been nice to see this unfold from brief to design. That's what we like to see, and great. But I would say for the last maybe 4 minutes, I mean that's quite precise, 4 minutes. Joanne, perhaps how can our lovely audience kind of reach out to you, Kevin, and to see more about your work? Anything you want to share off your website or your Instagrams we can follow up on? I know Wade, our lovely moderator, is putting links in the chat, so they can definitely follow up. Is there any kind of thing you want us to a nice little send off?
Yeah, I guess you can just follow me on Behance. This is my profile. I am under the same handle, Kevin Craft Co. on Instagram, if you want to follow me there. And then also, like, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, I'll add you. So
you made that promise now.
That's where I post a lot of my new work anyway. So like that would be a good place to follow me. So yeah.
Nice. And your website, I mean, is absolutely, I mean, can we have a little bit, like,
yeah,
a quick dive into, because when I first, and again, you're gonna hate me for saying it, but can we increase the screen just a fragment, just so we can...
Yeah, the only thing is my screen is kind of like weird right now. So just like this text is obviously not supposed to be that small.
No worries.
But this is...
I've thrown your curveball there, sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, this is my website. All my entire process is on here as well. So like if you want to learn more about the workshops that I do, or like the branding, like how I handle branding, I have a little bit on this page about my revision process for the person that asked about that. So like if you're interested in also seeing my work is on here as well.
Your work is amazing, dude. Like I said, when I first knew I was hosting and I checked it out, I was in awe with and how clean as well, how the site was. That interactive element, I feel like that is just so... I will definitely be taking inspiration for my own site, because I you know, it just makes it that extra more engaging, right? When you've got someone clicking on the first get-go. And perhaps, is there any, I mean, with the Domestica course you mentioned that is that still running as well? as a cool
Yeah,
start?
so that's always running.
Okay.
You can actually access that through my Behance page is probably the easiest. So it's this project right here.
Nice.
So yeah, you can just click this link and it'll take you right to it.
So I feel like, I mean, again, we've had over the space of these 2 days, a lot of people tune in and seeing your design process. So I feel like I always think it's great because they've got a feel for who you are now as a designer, and hearing you speak and talk about your process and background. And then it's almost like you know the designer before you know their process and their project. And then obviously they will follow up, I'm sure, with a Domestica calls, which actually Wade has just kindly put in the chat. But I think on that note, I mean, that's a nice kind of way to kind of wrap up, and definitely please do check out Kevin's work, because it's absolutely incredible, and obviously give him a follow. I mean, Kevin, how have you found this whole process? I mean, from day one to you've enjoyed it, yeah?
Yeah, it's been great. I think it's been pretty seamless, and
Awesome.
it's been a great experience.
Nice. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you, dude. And just to wrap up as well, I will say that so Adobe Live will be back tomorrow with our evangelists for a full day of masterclasses, followed by a new episode of Office Hours with Nick Longo and Andrew Horserattle. So you definitely want to miss this one, folks. It'll be a great one. So on that note, I mean, that's a big thank you to our Adobe team, our wonderful audience, of course. Without you guys, there would be no Adobe Live. And of course, Kevin, you've been an absolute star, dude. It's been an amazing to host you over these 2 days and to sort of see your process. I'm sure everyone in the chat has absolutely loved it. So on that note, take care, my friends. Be safe, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye.
Bye.